Hello to the folks who are just hopping on and joining us today. Thank you so much for attending our monthly webinar for mechanical users. This session is a chance for you guys to work directly with our customer success and product teams. We demonstrate features, go over some common questions, and as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. We'll forward the recording to all registrants, and you can always find our webinar recordings on the Evolve YouTube channel. And here is a look at your dedicated customer success and product team members who are on the call today. They are here to answer your questions. So please submit any questions through the Q&A function in your Zoom toolbar. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to our product manager, Jason Earl, to get us started today.
Thanks, Marina. So the first thing that we want to share with everybody today is some of the additional resources that we provide. The first one being Evolve University. This is a newer one, an effort we started late last year and has finally started to come to completion. And so on Evolve University, you'll be able to find guided tutorials for all of our features. So they're going to be split up into courses. There are courses for Evolve Mechanical and Evolve Electrical. And in those courses, we have a series of short videos that go through each feature, all of the picks and clicks, and we try to give some best practice advice as we go through those. And then we also go over many of the families as well, such as the bends and the trapeze families. Also, what we have over here on the right is a link for the weekly office hours. The weekly office hours is something that we do every Tuesday. It's an hour that we spend with all of you. It's an open forum where you can ask questions. You can ask us to basically train you on any sort of Evolve topic. And then when we don't have questions, we'll pick a topic and we'll do kind of impromptu training. All right, so from there, the next thing that I want to jump into now is going to be the 7.2 hotfix. So we released the 7.2 hotfix, I believe, last week or the previous week. The 7.2 hotfix is there to address some issues or bugs that were found with the 7.2 release. So coming through here, you'll notice that this one's pretty short, and that's because it's a hotfix version. There's no new features in the 7.2 hotfix. However, we have included some items for stability. So I won't go quite through every single one of these, but one of the big ones that you guys may have encountered is going to be the one for fixed spool sheet error when work sets are hidden. So if anybody's ever gotten that object not set to reference of an object error, that should be addressed in this version, as well as many other bugs, many of them oftentimes model specific. All right, so with that, let's continue into the next topic that we have planned here. And that's kind of a little overview or kind of a spotlight that I'd like to put on Element Filter. Element Filter is a feature within both Evolve Electrical and Evolve Mechanical. And it really centers around element filters, right? That's its namesake. But element filter itself, although it's a feature, it's something that's commonly used in Revit and in Evolve. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about element filters. And you can always go to Evolve University. We actually did an office hours where we did an in-depth dive on element filters in Revit and with Evolve. So you can always go and check out Evolve University for a more in-depth look at element filters. All right, so when we use element filters in Revit, the two main places that we use those are with schedules and with view filters. So when we talk about an element filter in Revit, typically what we're doing is we're filtering from everything in the project or everything in the model down to some specific group that we want. So if we look, for instance, here at this trapeze schedule, and we go in and we look at the filter, we've got some rules down here to filter, right? Because we don't want this schedule to show everything. We only want it to show our one-tier trapezes. So we do that by setting up some rules in our filter to make that happen. Another place it's very common to use filters in Revit is in view filters. So if we go to our visibility graphics overrides here, and then we go over to the filters tab, these are the filters for view filters. And you'll notice these ones look very similar to the ones you see in Evolve. So the way we filter with these is we'll start with categories. So first we're going to narrow down from everything in the project to just the category or categories that we want to work with. So for instance, in here, we could choose ducts. So now we've narrowed down everything. Actually, let's do MEP fabrication ductwork because that's what matches what's in my model here. So at this point, we've narrowed our filter down to just one category. We also have the option to create filter rules, but let's just kind of look at what this does currently so that we can see how it changes when we add additional rules. So let's go in and let's create a new one here. So I'm going to call this duct, call it MEP duct. And then let's look for our MEP fabrication ductwork. So we started by narrowing it down to just the category. So now I'm going to add this filter to our project, and I'm going to color it all red so that we can see how our filter is working and what it's doing. All right, so when I apply that filter to my view, all of my elements that belong to the MEP fabrication ductwork category have now turned red. But what if I want to be more specific with my filter, right? I don't want everything in there. Maybe I just want these square bends. So how would I do that? How do I go about creating a filter? The first thing that we do is we think about what we want the filter to filter down to. So in this case, it's the square bend. And then we're going to start looking at what information we have from that part to construct our filter. So we've got quite a few parameters in here. So which one should I use? For me, I'm probably going to go with the family name. So if we look at other pieces, the family name is going to be different. That seems like a good place to start. So let's go and let's edit our filter. And let's add a line for family name. So we're adding a rule here now. So what we're doing when we add filter rules is we're getting more specific with our filter so that we can filter down to exactly what we want. So if we come down here to family name, so all filter rules will more or less operate the same way. The first thing that constructs it is a parameter name, and then we have a logical operator, which is just a fancy way of saying, equal, less than, greater than, contains, those types of things. And then we have a value. So what is the thing that we want that parameter to equal or contain? In this case, because we just want the square bends, we want the family name to equal square bend. So now when we apply that filter, we can see everything is not red anymore. Only the families for square bend are filtered here. Now at this point, we can start to get more advanced if we want. We can get more specific with our filter. So for instance, let's say I've got some in here. Maybe this is, ready for prefab, right? Maybe we wouldn't type this in one element at a time, or we might have it in other parameters. But for the example, this will serve us just fine. And maybe this one is needs review. All right. So I've entered some additional information in here. So maybe now I want to filter down to, instead of everything, I only want to color things that are red if the comments are ready for prefab or if it's need review. So how would we do that? Let's take a look. So we're going to go in and we're going to edit our filter. And when we have filter rules, we also have sets. So sets are kind of like another of these and or rules. So we can add a set here. And when you're creating filters, my advice is not to go more than 2 sets deep. They get very, very hard to manage and complex to create and difficult to troubleshoot. So best practice here is try to keep it to 2. So within here, what this filter now is doing is it's saying and. So and means all rules must be true. So right now it says family name equals square bend. Okay, so we can see from the ones that colored red, that came out to be true. So now we've added a set for or. So we're going to add some rules in that set. And what we're going to do is we're going to say comments equals needs review, or comments equals ready for prefab. So in this case, what I'm saying here is I want to color it red if the square bend is needs review or ready for prefab. So within this and rule, everything within this and rule must be true. So this must be true, or the family name equals square bend must be true. And then within that, what also must be true is that either the comments must equal ready for prefab or the comments must equal needs review. So let's apply this and let's take a look now. And now we can see only these 2 are red. So in this way, we've very quickly created kind of a somewhat complex filter. So the idea here is to kind of get an idea of how to create these filters, how filters work, and then start to think about how we can apply these in our everyday modeling. And that starts to bring us over to the element filter. The element filter is just one place where element filters are used in Evolve. Element filters are a way for you, the user, to customize or to tell Evolve exactly which elements that you want to work with for a given feature. So when it comes to locations, there's an element filter in there to say which elements should be included in that location. With sleeves, there's 2 element filters in there. What are we putting a sleeve on? And then what is that sleeve, or what is that pipe or duct going through? That way we can be more customizable about what type of sleeve we want to put in, depending on what type of pipe it's going onto, or what type of wall it's going through. Other features that have element filters include workset managers. So which elements do you want to put on which workset? Reports have them through data profiles. Data profiles is a tool that pipes data into other tools. So when data profiles is providing information to other features, we need to know which elements, or Evolve needs to know which elements do you want information from. So that's how an element filter works in there. For colorizer, which elements should be colored which color? An element filter decides that. For parameter sync, which elements should a parameter value be copied from one parameter to another? Again, the element filter decides that. For renumber, which elements do you want to renumber? And do you want multiple numbering schemas? Element filters help enable that in renumber. And then there's a couple more over here. But for the sake of time, let's kind of jump into element filter here. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but what element filter is really, really good for is for turning things on and off in your working views. So instead of having to go into my visibility graphic settings each time, scroll down, hey, I want to turn off walls, or oh, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to turn off this link. We can create an element filter for it, and we can do it with the click of a button without having to open any additional windows. So one that we have in here, what you're looking at right now is the default element filters. So in your project, you may have these or you may not. If you don't, these element filters are included, I believe, with 7.0 is when you'll start to see those. So if you don't see any of these in here, we can go and we can import filter, and we can import these because they come with the installer and they're with the install files. So if we go to where we installed Evolve, we go to Program Files, Evolve, your product and year. In this case, it's going to be Mechanical 2021. And then in the resources folder, we have a file here for default selection filters. These are all these element filters that you see in here right now. So within here, the one I kind of want to show off, we go into this a little bit more depth in the office hours that we did this week, which you can watch the recorded video on Evolve University. So make sure to sign up for that. So what I'm going to show here is hiding and showing linked models. So right now, I hid the linked model without having to open anything up. It's just the click of a button. And then I can turn it back on with another click of the button. If we look at these element filters here, and we modify this, this one's a little more complex than just your standard one. Actually, it's not. So this is just Revit links. So this is just hiding all Revit links. We could get more specific here in our rules, and we could create rules around which links we want to hide. So we could have multiple ones for hiding different links or different groups of links. That can make things very easy for turning on and off links when you're trying to get a really good view of something in your working view. We could also create ones for our walls, for ceilings, for those types of, those groups of elements that you frequently turn on and off. Element filter is a great tool to do that with. And then kind of the last thing that I want to mention here in the element filter is we may or may not see one of those in here now, but element filter also has PowerShell. PowerShell is a great tool for adding kind of custom or extra functionality onto some of the features in Evolve. Now, I always say we don't expect you guys or anybody really to learn PowerShell. It is a programming language, but PowerShell is a way for us to provide extra feature and extra functionality to the features for all of you. So if you ever think that PowerShell could help you create an element filter or any other tool that you find on the ribbon, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be more than happy to help work with you and help create that PowerShell script for you. All right, the last thing that I'll mention here about element filter and kind of what really can take it well above and beyond just using the native visibility and graphics overrides is the ability to hotkey these. So in any of these, I can set up a hotkey. So we can do one for hide links and show links. So we can just set them just like that by typing in the hotkey we want. And then we can run the hotkey with this element filter hotkeys button. Now you might be thinking, well, how does that save me any time if I have to come up here and click on a button for a hotkey? Well, you would be right, it doesn't. So the way that saves time and the way that you would want to set up the element filter hotkeys is you actually want to hotkey this in Revit. So to do that, we're going to go up to File and then Options, User Interface, and then Keyboard Shortcuts. Within here, we can just type in hotkey. There it goes. All right, so I've already got mine hotkeyed, but we see here element filter hotkeys. So I set FH as my shortcut for that. So now I have a hotkey for that button. So now if I want to use one of these hotkeys, I can do FH HL for hide linked models. And that way I can control my element filters just from my keyboard. As well as if I have a mouse with a lot of extra buttons on it, I can add macros to those buttons to do it from the click of a single button. So we'll show an example here. So
Jason, the hotkey was in electrical.
Oh,
you
okay.
You got electrical and mechanical.
Okay, so yep. So I hotkeyed the one from the wrong product. We will be fixing that very soon. All right, so let me set this up. All right, so we'll set it for, I'm gonna remove it out of here. And then we'll set it here. Oops. FH. All right, so now that we've got that set up, now it's listening and I can type HL. And then we can do it again. And now we have our links back. And then we can hide this dialog. if we want, if we don't even want to see it. So now I can just quickly type in FHHL, and I've hidden my links. So a great feature of Element Filter that really brings a great tool really to the next level for everybody out there looking to kind of increase their efficiency and make life a little easier, a little less picks and clicks going through Revit. All right, so with that, that is what I wanted to share with everybody today about Element Filter. Next up, I'm going to be passing it over to Lucas to talk about some content.
Thanks, Jason. Marina, you have that slide? Nice. Earlier this year, we announced our intent to expand our mechanical RFA library. Many of you provided feedback and suggestions on this, and we've been using that to drive our content development for the past few months. As always, we're focused on creating highly functional, configurable content that's lightweight and easy to model. Before I get into that, I just want to, what you see on the screen here, if you scan that, that'll take you to that link that we shared with you all earlier this year. And there you can, it's our features board. You can request anything really, but that link in particular is one that I'm looking at every day to see what suggestions, what requests you have for content. And much of that feedback is used directly to drive our roadmap going forward. Today we're going to look at what we have in development from a high level. We're going to discuss functionality, not necessarily a demo because there's a lot of material I want to go over and I need to hand it off to Adam and Steve at some point. Some of you may have already seen this if you've been attending our office hours, but hopefully you'll see something new today as we are under constant development. We're hoping to get all this out in our 7.4 release in the coming months here, at least in a beta capacity, because again, I want to get your feedback on it. I want you to use it, test it, break it. Let me know what you want it to do. Our hope today is that not only will you get an idea of a better understanding of what we're developing, but also maybe see some stuff that turns on some light bulbs as to what other content you might want to see with what functionality we can provide as well. And with that, Marina, let's go ahead. I'm going to switch over to my end. Thank you. We're going to dive right in to it. So I'm going to go through kind of the 5 big topics that I have for today. Some of the content that's actually built out a little bit. And we're going to start small and work our way up here. The first one is valves. I know when I was working with stock out-of-the-box valves, I was frustrated with them quite a bit, both from just a general modeling standpoint, as well as what functionality they provided me. So a couple of things that we've done. We're going to look at a ball valve today. The stock valves that are included with Revit, the sizing is all type-based. I've switched all that to instance-based so that you can grab any size of pipe and just drop it in, and it'll automatically adjust that valve to be the size that it needs to be for that pipe. Additionally, we've provided some critical options here, the ability to change the body length, as well as the handle height, length, and width. Really straightforward. We've only fleshed this out through the ball valve family right now, but we are working to get this in our check valve, butterfly valve, and a handful of others that I have in the lineup. One other thing I will point out too, we've created a parameter sync rule that will automatically generate a part description for you based on the size that you put in, the type of valve you chose, and if you have a material associated with it, that part description will populate into our standard evolve description parameter. All right, let me just take a quick look at that in 3D. Nothing fancy here, but other than them being upside down. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Again, trying to keep these relatively generic, but give you just enough functionality to change them for your project needs. All right, next up, let's look at air terminals. Got a little bit more to go over here. We'll start with the lay-in diffusers and registers that we see here. First thing we support, in order to simplify how many families you need in a project, we are supporting supply, return, and exhaust systems in a single family. Additionally, in that family, when you choose a system, the symbol will change in your plan views to the standard symbol associated with that system. So we can see here, return, supply, and exhaust. Right now, the system selection is a type property. I may change this in the future depending on customer feedback, what you guys actually want out of this. But the idea here, you can change, decide whether you want this to be a supply, return, or exhaust lay-in device. And then also you can, this is a manual, just typing in field. It doesn't change anything geometrically, but it will affect the part description that gets generated. So if you want this to say diffuser, register, or grill, you can go ahead and type that in there, or something else altogether. Let's see. Let's look at our instance properties here. At the instance level, we're going to be able to size the duct connection that we see, again, to help minimize the number of families we have within the library. We've added in an option to change whether it's a round or rectangular square duct connection here. Go ahead and look at these in 3D again. So we can see there that when we change that, that connection is changing. And to support that as well, we have these different duct sizes. We have either a diameter that will be used or width and height, depending on what your duct type selection is. The last time I demoed this on one of our office hours, I had a request that I wasn't expecting, something I had thought about, but I had a request to support some kind of automated sizing based on airflow. And so I went ahead and built in that functionality. You'll see right now that these, all of these are currently set up for manual duct sizing per this right here, this duct size manually. So if we were to change this diameter to 10 inches, that will change based on that. However, we now have the option to change this based on airflow. So if we select our duct sizing method selection button here, you'll see that this has changed. Now, it immediately reports an error. And you'll see this is something else I've built in to a lot of our families coming up. When there's a selection that's not appropriate, it's going to force that element to turn red, and there's going to be some kind of error message. In this case, we've selected that we want the duct sizing to be based on airflow, but we haven't actually input any airflow here. If we go ahead and input in some kind of airflow, that error is going to go away. And we're going to get return a message that's saying the duct was sized by a data table, and we could see that it reported a 8-inch duct there. If we change this to go up to, let's do 400, it's going to automatically update that as well. This is all based on a data table within the Evolve toolset. If you're not familiar with those, these are a great way to apply kind of systematic lookup tables within a project. So we have a parameter sync rule that's looking at this data table. Now, I realize that within this data table, these numbers may not be to your company's standard, or they may be not appropriate for a project you're working on. We wanted to just provide some generic values in here, some placeholder values, but these can be adjusted on a project-by-project basis as needed. So you would simply come in here and adjust what size ductwork goes with what amount of airflow you're going to have for that project, and the duct sizing will take that into account when you select the duct sizing method based on the data table. All right. One question. Okay. Let's see, what else do I want to say here? We talked about the error. Oh, yes, and one more thing. Again, we're trying to help out by creating these part descriptions. So there's another parameter sync rule that is automatically updating based on your selection here. In this case, this is a supply diffuser that's 24 by 24 inches. If for whatever reason we came in here and decided, you know what, this was actually going to be a 4-foot by 2-foot module, and it's going to be, let's go back down to our 150 CFM. We see that duct diameter changed, and our description has changed as well per our parameter sync rule. All right. Let's take a look at our linear slot diffusers. These operate very similarly to the lay-in terminals that I've built. They have the same option to put in a either manual or data table driven duct sizing. Again, you're just checking or unchecking that box, and it'll report back immediate feedback as to what method is being used. The linear slot diffuser does have a few more options within it. There's a number of slots. Geometrically, this isn't going to change anything, but it will affect the part description that gets generated. We have the ability to change the module width, length, and height. And then also we have the ability to change our plenum height as well as the offset of that plenum on our module. Again, system is on a type basis, as well as because it's a linear slot, we want to be able to move that connection, whether that's left to right, up or down. So we've added in some functionality for that as well. You're basically going to choose whether it's going to be measured from the left or right, up or bottom or top, and then put in a value that offsets it from that direction. So again, this is something we're workshopping. I don't know that we'll keep all these as type parameters. I don't know that it's that critical. I would love to hear feedback on that. Would you want to see this as instance properties, as type properties? It's definitely something I'm curious about. And then again, if we look down in our properties menu under evolve description, we see that that part description is being generated based on our selection for this particular air terminal. All right, perfect. Okay, moving on solid pace. Let's go out to check out our VAVs. So this is another rather large undertaking. One of the key things here, we realize that VAVs come in all sorts of shapes, sizes, and configurations. And to that end, we have provided what we hope is enough options here. Oh, okay. Some good questions there. I'm going to pause real quick. I see some good questions coming there. Can you save multiple air terminal specification lists? You could. We would probably need to create multiple data tables, and you would need to update the parameter sync rule as well to call out which data table that you want to use. But yes, certainly possible. The linear slot, I believe, I don't have a working version of that, but I had started working on that around the time that I built that one. I'll definitely, I ran into some trouble with it on making it exactly the way I wanted to, but it's good to hear that feedback. That's definitely something that's on my radar. All right, VAVs. So lots of configurations here. I'm just going to go through each one of them. I've kind of got these pre-configured just to save time. This first one is about as simple as it gets. It's just a single round duct in the center here. And then we have the option in our parameters to change that to a, this is going to be a type parameter, change that to be a rectangular duct. A lot of properties in here to make all this happen. We have the ability to move these connectors around. So you can see in this third option here, this round connection is no longer in the center. Instead, it's been offset to a bottom left per the submittal data that we have. We also have the option to include a second round connector. And then finally, we have the option for a return in the case of some kind of fan power box, parallel or not. Maybe we have that return plenum coming in the front, maybe it's in the side. We have options to configure that within our VAV. Additionally, on the outlet side, we have the option to have that outlet match the box size, effectively being a plenum that we're just connecting to with some duct. We have in these couple configurations here, we have a reheat coil where we've have differing lengths to it. In this configuration here, our outlet does not match the box size, it's just a centered small piece that's on the that's on the back there. We could also offset that left, right, up, and down. Let's see, where else? One thing that you don't see here, but this is in development, I am looking to add in fan coils on the side. Mike just asked on the VVs, can we get coils attached on the supply with adjustable switching left to right connections for piping? Yep, that is in development. I'm sorry I didn't have that available yet for today, but that will be coming, as well as a control box option too. So you'll be able to drop in a control box or coil on either the left or right side. Cool. All right, and finally, we have some built-in supports. This requires a little bit more tweaking. There's quite a few different ways that these things can be supported, and we didn't want to overbuild this. Ultimately, what we did is kind of put in placeholders for, is it going to be side mounted or top mounted? And then there's some additional parameters in there for offsetting it left to right. The length of that attachment, is it coming down through a certain amount through the piece of equipment, et cetera, et cetera. But probably the one of the cooler parts about it, at least for me, we lifted a functionality that we have with some of our hangers and some of our electrical boxes. These support hangers will automatically adjust their length based on the height of the equipment and what you set the support mounting height to be. So let's say this box comes down to 9 feet, 9'2". You notice that the length of those supports stay the same. But you know what? Those supports actually need to go up to 15. We'll see that the box stays where it is. That's the length of the supports automatically extends to get to the height that it needs to be at. Built-in clearance zones. Sorry, another question just came in. Built-in clearance zones for control boxes. So right now, you don't see them in this view. Let me turn on clearances again here. I had it turned on here. Right now, there is the option to include clearance on the top, left, right, and bottom. Those are instance properties that can be toggled on and off as necessary for each piece of equipment. I think that's, yeah. So again, the support length, that's just a parameter sync rule that we use in a handful of other pieces of content that we've extended to support this particular family as well. All right, realize I went over quite a few options there. So they drop down below the ceiling. Not sure I understand the question there. I apologize. Are there any other questions on the VAV before I move forward here? Quite a bit of functionality. We hope it covers, 80 to 90% of your use cases. Oh, one thing I didn't point out, if you are using layout points, that's something else we have built into the supports here. Support for having point layouts there that will work with our point layout manager too. For clash detection of pipes from below clearance area. You can extend, okay, I understand what you're asking, if that clearance area can be adjusted, I believe. Yeah, so each of these clearance areas has its own unique depth that can be adjusted. So yeah, if this one needed to come down for some reason, where's our bottom clearance? Bottom clearance, that will automatically extend that down. It would be neat if these could extend automatically. They don't currently do that, but that's certainly something we can look at in the future. All right, let's move on. I think let's move on to our fourth option. Excuse me. Packaged equipment. This family is even more robust than that VAV family we just looked at. The goal with this family was to make a highly configurable rooftop unit, air handling unit that has support for a myriad of submittals, permutations. Right now, let's look at this in 3D. Right now, you can see that these two look very different. We have connections, supply and return connections coming down through the base, as well as an outside air connection coming out the back, and a hood in the front, and a roof carb. With this piece of equipment, same family, we have those connections on the side instead, with a housekeeping pad, no hood, no outside air, no nothing. You'll notice one of the things we have here is these labels that tell you where front, left, right, and back are. This is in support of the actual configuration of this device. If we look at our type properties, we'll see that there are 4 connections that we can have: supply air, return air, exhaust air, and outside air. Right now with this family, you can have 1 of each. It takes a lot of parameters to actually make this all work. So we had to draw a line somewhere. Basically, the idea here is that you input a number, whether it's going to be that connection is going to be on the front, back, left, right, or top, or bottom. When you do that, it'll automatically shift. Let's actually look at this one. To that point, if we wanted to move these connections maybe to the front, all we would need to do is come into our supply and return connections here, hit apply, and those 2 connections will automatically move to that location. Maybe it was only 1 of them, right? Maybe that return actually is going to be on the right side. We can make that change pretty quickly. We can adjust the size of that ductwork. We also have the ability to either center the ductwork on a given side, either on the X or Y axis, or both, as well as the ability to offset it from the left or right, top or bottom. So really a lot of control to move these things to where you want them to be. Additionally, some functionality to add in hoods. You see that this piece of equipment here has a hood on the front side. Maybe this piece of equipment is actually going to have something on the back. We come to our back hood selection. We have 3 different options for hoods. Where did I put that? Oh, Lucas. Input a 1 for horizontal hood, 2 for vertical, or 3 for incline. So you know what? This guy's going to have an incline hood on the back here. And we see that that shows up. We can make it match the equipment size, and maybe it matches the height as well. It's just a nice big inclined hood that's going to be on the back of this piece of equipment. So to my point, we've tried to make this a very, very configurable family, equipment width, depth, and height, all these different connectors that can be located on any of the 6 sides, the option for a roof curb or a housekeeping pad. And then again, on our instance properties, I have clearances turned off in this view, but similar to the VAV with a couple additional options, we have clearance areas for every side, each that can be adjusted with their own unique depth. We're doing on time. Okay. All right. I want to get to our last piece, so I'm going to keep on moving here. Any questions on the packaged equipment family that I went over there before I move on? All right. Our last one is our generic rectangular and round equipment. These guys are very similar to the packaged equipment we just looked at from a broad standpoint. We have a front, left, right, and back. We have clearances, we have a housekeeping pad, and for the rectangular one, we also have a roof curb option. You'll notice they have layout points in them. These will make their way into the packaged equipment. It's not something I've done yet. But that you'll have, if you're using our point tool, you'll be able to locate both the equipment and the housekeeping pad via layout points. And again, that will make its way into the packaged equipment before this gets released. You'll notice, however, when we come into our type properties, we only have equipment dimensions and then some visibility controls for showing all those points. We don't see anything about supply, return, exhaust, or outside air connections. What we've done with this one is we've said, all right, look, we gave you that other packaged equipment, and you know what? Maybe it doesn't meet your needs. Maybe you need something more unique. Maybe you need to add some pipe connections. Maybe you need something more that piece of equipment does not resolve. So in this case, you're going to need to get into the family editor. I know it can be a scary place if you're not used to working with that, but bear with me. We're going to pop into the family editor with this piece of equipment. The first thing I'm going to do is turn off the clearance area. I'm going to come into my family types dialog, come all the way to the bottom. There's this clearance visibility toggle that I can turn off. And then I'm going to go into my preview visibility on this bottom right here. I know I said I wasn't going to give a tutorial, but I want to give you guys kind of the full spread of what this can do. There will be videos on how to do this, just so you're aware. The big idea here, the hardest part about locating connections, the hardest thing about locating connections is, you got to get the proper dimensions and reference points and all those. And if you look at the packaged equipment family, it's an absolute mess when it comes to reference points. There's tons of them. But we want something simple here. So for this piece of equipment, we're going to add in, we need a connection on the front side here. What we've added here is a nested rectangular host with 3 types. We need a supply. We're going to drop that in, and then we're going to go to our front side view. For the sake of time, I'm not going to actually measure anything here, but we get this thing located based on our submittal. And then we come into the dimension properties. Let's change this to what it needs to be. Maybe this is going to be 36 inches wide by 24 inches high. Let's go back to our 3D view. There's our supply connection, except that that's just the host. We still need to add a connector. If we come up to our create tab, add a duct connector to it, and make this match what we did before. What did I say there? 24, I think, by 36. There's our duct connection. Simple as that. Oh, you know what? We need a pipe connection too. Let's grab our nested round host. Go ahead and drag that to the top here. It's some kind of exhaust or something coming off the top. It's really large. We're going to change that down to 4 inches. And then again, come to our create tab, add a pipe connection there, and change that to 6 inches. Again, you probably would want to go into your reference level view and actually measure to where that's going to be. But the idea here is that we've created this kind of DIY generic family with the parts and pieces that you need. And it should be fairly quick, fairly easy to come into this family and kind of configure it to the exact fixed thing that you need if the parametric packaged family isn't enough for you. I'll load this guy back in. Let's see. Sorry, Adam, I'm going to cut you guys down a little bit on time. There we have it. We see it now. We have a duct connection off the front, and we have a pipe connection off the top. I don't know if I have pipes in here. Real simple to add, I hope. I would love to get feedback on that, and what we think of that functionality. The same functionality is supported within our generic round. I'm not going to go into that too much because my time is getting cut short here. Nathan, I see your question. Do you have condensing units or furnace air handlers, or will this general model be for those? For right now, this will have to do, but yes, the goal is to have, condensers are on my list. The air handler, I'm hoping that the package one can kind of double down for that, but if there are specific details that we need to add into it, I'd love to hear about that. Okay, there's one more thing I want to show before I sign off here. Those of you that were here Tuesday, you will have already seen some of this, but this has been an oft-requested piece of content. Some of you may be familiar with Durablock and their rooftop applications from Eaton. Up for the 7.4 release, we will be supporting these models here as well as these models here. And you can see that all the black ones, this is basically a single instance of each one of these. We could support up to 34 catalog items here. In addition, these orange ones are assemblies. These are customizable versions of these that maybe you don't want to go out and buy this part, or you need it to be something different. You need a different size strut, whatever. You need to have more tiers. You'll be able to build out these assemblies and then get a bill of materials as to what parts are needed for that assembly as well. I'll be doing more videos on this content, how to use it all on a future date. That's it for now, though. I did have a couple other things I wanted to say. Oh, so a couple other items that I am trying to get in for the 7.4 release, more valves, as well as floor and roof drains, maybe some floor sinks. Those will all have layout points in them and the ability to change their size, depth, and all the critical dimensions. And finally, if you are attending any of our upcoming MEP Force Roadshow events, I will be in attendance at all of those going forward. I hope. I think I am. We are planning to have a scheduled roundtable discussion at the Austin one in a couple weeks. I will be there for that. And my hope is that if you're there, you come to the roundtable and let's talk content. What do you want built? What do you want to see built? And just discuss the details. If you're not able to attend, please use that link that was provided earlier to post your feedback, post your requests. What content do you want to see built, etc. And with that, I will hand it off to Adam and Steve to talk about Shop.
Thanks, Lucas. If anybody wants to test out those families, what are you doing about that? Are you sharing models?
Yeah, so the Durablock families are ready for testing. I would There's a little bit more work I want to do with the mechanical equipment. But yeah, I would love to get that out. If you're interested in testing any of the stuff you saw today, please reach out to us. Either email me directly, put it in a support ticket. It doesn't matter to me. It'll get to me in one way or another. And I will be in touch with a link to that.
You want to throw your email in the chat for everybody,
Sure.
if you dare?
Right.
All right, so there's just a few things I wanted to cover at the end of this. One, someone asked a question about an older installer. Just remember on the downloads page, there is an archive button here that brings you to all of our old installers, basically everything from essentially 5.4 and up. The 4.4 is for 2019. Those are very old. But if you ever need to access an old version of Evolve, you have access to all of them here. The other thing to note is we recently had a couple of issues in Revit 24, or I say we have had issues, Revit had some issues. Sent out this in-app notification to everyone about this. Basically, there's a bug in Revit 24 causes this schema conflict error. Basically, the fix from Autodesk is to update to 24.2. So just note about that. You can also find this information on our no limitations page, the bug page. This has been updated. You'll see all the hotfix features that were noted as issues have been fixed. And then this Revit 24 issue is noted here with some links to read up on this. Definitely read the release notes on here because Autodesk states existing projects can continue with this issue. So I would say update sooner than later. And I don't know how many are in 24 yet, but just note that that's there. Okay, so last thing I wanted to cover is kind of an update with Foresight, the website and the shop products, what we've been doing. So early this year, we launched our shop product. Essentially, it was made to handle a basic process for receiving and executing work in a prefab facility, basically creating these tasks and tracking them, etc. Pretty simple process that we focused on. This is kind of the general workflow that we support in this product. So I want to just give a couple of screenshots just so everybody's aware kind of the efforts that we've been putting into that product, where it's at, just to get a glimpse of it. If it's something of interest, please reach out to us. We can obviously set up demos and calls and talk about it. So just kind of a little view of what some of these things look like. The idea here is, let's go to a project. So say if I have some project here, I have this ability to create these work requests. This is just something, piece of work that needs to be done, whether this is coming from design or the field. We track statuses inside of these things. You can add items of what the items are, along with bill of process comes in at some point. The real main function of the tool is like from a shop perspective, being able to receive these work requests from multiple projects. You'll see here I got multiple jobs. These are all coming into me. There's an approval process. At some point, those things turn into work orders. We have some different views for viewing work orders and a Kanban view, calendar view, to see like when these things are needed. There's also a whole Kanban view, basically your shop floor view, where you can see all the different work cells and everything that's in them. And then eventually you're into a work cell and you're producing some item, hangers here. We have a forge viewer where you can see some view of the spool or whatever it is. So we've been doing a lot of work on this. This is a totally separate dev effort of ours. So the Revit products, as you see, are continuing to be developed. The team has always been focused on Revit. One of the things we've done recently was we did a disconnect from the website with the Revit products. The main reason is so that there is no limitation on when we provide updates to either product. Making that change caused us to slow down a little bit, but we have a release coming out at the end of this week. A couple of things to note on that release. One, for any admin with Evolve who's dealing with the licensing, there's a couple of things we did to improve it. One, just adding a simple filter. So you can basically filter by product, or if you want to say who doesn't have a license, I can do a quick filter down and see that, or see who has a license. This is just improved just so I can see who's been deleted and who's not. A couple minor things. Inside the message center, there's a mark all is red. So if you're in Revit and you get these little pop-ups that we send out notifications, we try not to bombard anybody with those. I'm not trying to spam anybody. These updates and the bug issues, we do send those out. You will get those in Revit. We try to make everybody aware of these things. We think they're important. However, if you don't come to the website and mark it as red, you may see this pop up all the time. So currently you'd have to just go through here and click on all these things, but there'll be just a quick button to mark them all as red, and then you don't have to deal with it. So that's coming out this week, Friday, so next week you'll see it. A couple of things coming on the shop piece. We are doing a whole shipping and receiving piece of the work orders. So that will be a nice addition, kind of a completion of the whole workflow, the way we see it. What's more relevant to everybody on this call is the reconnection of Revit to the work request. This will be a separate installer. So if you start using the shop product, this would be something one or more users could install separately. But what this will allow you to essentially do is pull in your work request into a Revit model. And let's just say, I don't have mechanical here, but I'll take a spool manager anyway. Let's just say you have some spools and you need to send these to prefab. Essentially, you'll be able to select those spools, select the work request you want to send it to, and the item, the sheet, the bill of material, all that stuff kind of automatically goes from Revit to the ticket, to the work request, if you will. So that's our next focus coming into the next year. We think this is going to be a huge enhancement. It's going to streamline the deliverables from Revit to the shop. So again, if anybody is interested, wants more information, reach out to us, and that's all I wanted to cover. So I'll leave it there. If anybody has any questions, we can hang on for a minute, but that's it.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone. I want to give one last shout out for the MEP Force Roadshow in Austin. That is going to be on December 13th. You can find the link for that in the chat. In January, we're taking the MEP Force Roadshow to Milwaukee. And in the new year, we'll be announcing more dates and locations for that event. We're really trying to bring MEP Force to you and reach cities all across the US to make it more accessible for folks. So thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. I hope that you found the information valuable. Please make sure to follow Evolve on social media to keep up with all of our upcoming webinars, events, educational content, and product updates and releases. As a reminder, this webinar has been recorded and we'll send out the recording in an email to all registrants. As a heads up, we will not be doing the monthly webinar in December as it would fall during the holidays, but we will still be doing those weekly office hours on Tuesdays. Again, you can find the link for that in the chat, or you can always find links for our events and webinars on the website under the resources tab. You can go to our events page. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day.